This week's video causes us to look heavenward, up toward the sky. I thought it would be appropriate to do this video outdoors. Okay, not outdoors per se. This is a green screen. But it's close enough for now. Since the beginning of time, man has looked heavenward. He has longed to explore the cosmos and unravel the mysteries they contain. Still today, we have this longing to explore space, despite man having walked on the moon. In our modern age, technology has become an integral part of space exploration and scientific discovery. However, something was discovered in 1900 that pushed our understanding of space exploration as well as ancient man. To start our journey this week, we're going to travel to Greece, right off the coast of mainland Greece. Picture this. The bright copper helmet emerges from the water as the diver is lifted back aboard the vessel. This particular ship and her divers were on a sponge finding mission in the Aegean Sea off of mainland Greece. However, these divers would find something far more precious than simply sponges. As that first diver was lifted from the water and brought on board the ship, his gear was being removed. He began to tell stories from the fathoms below. He reported horses, beautiful bronze sculptures, and ancient remains of a ship. Initially, his captain wrote these stories off as raptures of the deep, common occurrences during the time resulting almost in a drunkenness of the divers. It was caused by the air mixture, nitrogen in the air mixture, that the divers often used. However, other divers began to report similar findings. These findings were reported to the Greek authorities, who led an expedition to the Aegean Sea in 1901. They found a ship of Roman origin, and laying on the seabed were beautiful sculptures, glass, pottery, jewelry, and a corroded chunk of metal that began to disintegrate when it was brought from its saltwater grave. All of these artifacts eventually found their home in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, Greece, where they still sit today, including that piece of bronze. Many researchers concern their study with the glass, jewelry, and coins also found in the shipwreck, and they largely ignored the not yet world-changing find. That hunk of metal would later come to be known as the Antikykthera mechanism, and it changed the way modern societies have viewed those who went before. Personally, I've been fascinated by this device ever since I saw it on an episode of Nova on PBS. It was an episode on ancient computers. A certain writer, Eric von Däken, first believed the device to be of value. He realized the sheer complexity of it as a method to track the heavenly bodies in space above. He hypothesized that the device was brought to Earth from another realm by aliens on a spaceship. Of course, this notion was rejected, or rather ignored, by many at the time. Research on the Antikykthera mechanism resumed and reached mainstream science in 1974 when Derek de Solla Price issued a publication on the piece. He had studied the device for over 2 decades and, using X-ray technology, analyzed the construction and structure of the device. He discovered that the device was composed of over 30 gears with hundreds of teeth, totaling thousands of teeth in all. The entire mechanism was controlled and operated by one single hand crank. Through his research, Derek de Solla Price discovered that the Antikykthera mechanism was the world's first known computer. Now, given its age, it was the world's first known analog computer, in that it worked by mechanical means. The size, teeth, speed, etc. of the gears all determined the final calculation. Unfortunately, Derek de Solla Price passed away in 1983, and due to the poor X-rays and nature of the research, he did not determine how the device worked. His work largely sat idle until 2006, when Mike Edmonds from Cardiff University analyzed the Antikykthera mechanism using sophisticated CT scans that showed the inner workings of the device and even some of the inscriptions on the outside of it. Together with De Sola Price's new research and the new scans, Mike Edmonds determined that the mechanism was indeed used to determine the movements of heavenly bodies. Specifically, using 7 hands and multiple dials, the device tracked Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all able to be seen with the naked eye, the moon and its phases, the sun, solar, and lunar eclipses, 3 calendars, and at least 42 festivals and events, including the Olympics. The device operated with one single hand crank and fit within a box no bigger than a mantel clock. The Antithica mechanism was also incredibly accurate. The sheer complexity of the device is mind-boggling. Richard Feynman, a physicist, described the mechanism. It was so entirely different and strange that it is nearly impossible. It is some kind of machine with gear trains, very much like the inside of a modern wind-up alarm clock. Up until this discovery, researchers believed these kinds of accurate skills were beyond those of ancient Greeks. They often credited 14th century Europeans with the first kind of device on this magnitude. Who invented this device? How did they build it? And why did they use it? Further research suggests that the Antithica mechanism was invented around 150 BC, probably on the Greek island of Rhodes. A few writings from the time suggest that the astronomer and inventor of trigonometry, Hipparchus, invented the device and enlisted the help of shopsmith Posidius in his workshop on the island of Rhodes. Although the purpose of the mechanism is well known, who owned it or why it was created still remain unknown. Some have suggested it could have been used within a school, a temple, or owned by a rich family as a novelty item. This particular Antithica mechanism appears to have been traveling north towards Rome, possibly for a parade or event of the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar. Since 2006, further research has sought to replicate this device, although many experts still debate how exactly it functioned, given that a few pieces are still missing. One inspired individual even created a replica out of Legos. His version is quite a bit larger than the original, but it is nonetheless impressive. The significance of the Antithica mechanism is profound. A historian for the Institute for the Study of the Ancient World once said this: "It would be hard to dispute that this is the single most information-rich object that has been uncovered by archaeologists from ancient times. The mechanism has changed the way we look at ancient man. Perhaps not ancient Greece per se, but often modern researchers view those who went before as less intelligent. The Antithica mechanism proves just the opposite. Ancient man saw the world around him and yearned to learn, explore, and discover his world. They recognized 5 planets able to be seen with the naked eye, and they came to believe that nature worked according to predefined rules, like a machine. They took the rules and laws that they observed around them and created a machine that almost perfectly replicated such events. Not only did they have the ability, but also the creative thought, and especially the skills to build such a device. Many researchers have been surprised and shocked to discover such a complex device, 1,400 years before Europeans were known to have invented similar devices. I'm not surprised at all. Ancient man in 150 BC or before was intelligent, and we continue to be so today. This is a concept that the Bible makes clear in Genesis. Listen to this verse. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, all the earth, and the creatures that crawl on the earth." Since the beginning of creation, man has had the creativity of God and the desire to learn more about him and how we are made in his image. The Antitheka mechanism is a testament to the ingenuity of man, their desire to learn more about the world around them, and it speaks to the true biblical account. For the Greeks, who created the mechanism, the Antitheka mechanism was a tool. For them, it was a tool to track the heavenly bodies above, and perhaps plan and keep track of social and cultural events. The world's first known computer is a tool very much like our computers are today. I use computers to share the gospel. Speaking of which, I would invite you to read the full gospel message that is on my website. I dropped a link in the description down below. I also use computers every day for entertainment as well as tools at my job. But the Antitheka mechanism also presents another step towards modern computing. Here is an example of the Greeks inventing a device to easily store and compute while researching the heavenly bodies above. As I've shared in the preceding weeks, need has driven technology forward. It has pushed men and women to invent new ways of meeting those needs. At first glance, the need for the Antitheka mechanism may not be seen, but it prompted further research and development. More practically, researching the movements of the planets, sun, moon, and stars above could have helped predict weather. Today, we see weather prediction as a need, and many times it is. Additionally, the Antitheka mechanism illustrates another important point: mankind's need to explore. Humans seem naturally curious. Without a doubt, the device required careful study, not just of the laws and rules in the heavens above, but of the mechanics and physics below. It required diligent study. We have always pushed the envelope, and technology has enabled us to do so. The Greeks pushed to discover and communicate what they learned and apply it to inventing devices. We do the same today. The Antitheka mechanism is one of the most exciting discoveries in the history of computing and computer science. The Antitheka mechanism is our third major milestone in the history of computing. That's it, guys. That is the Antitheka mechanism. I found this utterly fascinating, and I had a lot of fun researching and writing this video. I thank you guys so much for joining me. Just a few reminders before you go. Please remember that every week I will be writing a blog version of the video. You can read that on my website. The link is in the description down below. Also, I'd encourage you to follow me on social media. I am active daily on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, the links are below. Finally, if you haven't subscribed already, I encourage you to do so. We will be going through another milestone in computing history each week. I encourage you to join me. It's going to be a fun, fascinating journey. Alright, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me again, and I will see you next week. Bye!